Hey guys, it's Brian with Retired at 40. Welcome back to the Live Life Simple Kitchen. Today I'm going to give you one of the easiest recipes I think we've ever done on this channel, but something that just gives you a good base and something that I can just keep handy in a jar in my kitchen. We use it for all kinds of different stuff. Today we're going to do a very simple freeze-dried vegetable broth or vegetable bouillon. The great thing about today's recipe is it's all vegetables, so if you don't prefer the way I do it, you can make your own twist, put your own twist on it, and just to make it your own. Our vegetable broth recipe is all raw vegetables. We don't add any sodium, no salt, nothing like that. You can always add that in later. It's something that you could add into the mix, and I'll show you what we actually store ours in after ours is complete. But it's gonna have, today's recipe is gonna have a lot of dicing and chopping. So the easiest thing that I have found for something like that, and really just in freeze drying in general, because we tend to do a lot of chopping and cutting and things like that. We use a salad shooter, kind of like the old 80s commercial. I didn't really even know that they were around, but I was looking for something that would work well for just constantly dicing and chopping. The salad shooter works really cool. So I'm going to process all these vegetables. I kind of show you how we work that into our day-to-day in freeze drying. So this first tray, I'm going to start off with an easy one. I'm just going to do some carrots. I'm going to do an entire tray of carrots. The carrots I have just happen to already be cut. I think they were only about a quarter more than buying the whole carrots, so for a quarter, it just is a little bit of a time saver. And I bought 3 pounds of carrots. It looks like 2 pounds fills up a tray, so that's what I'm gonna stick with, 2 pounds of carrots on this first tray. And that's that for those. I'm gonna go ahead and put a lid on these. And these are ready. Next thing we're gonna do is some celery. And one thing that I really like about veggie broth is that you use a lot more of the vegetables, because things that you probably normally would cut off, they're fine as long as you're not leaving stuff on that's bitter, that's gonna make the stock bitter. So I just cut just barely the end of the celery off. Everything else I keep. I'm gonna go ahead and line the tray with parchment paper, pre-cut parchment paper. And what's great about this salad shooter is that it keeps everything consistent. So if you've been freeze drying for a while, or even if you're just getting started off, it's very important, I think, to keep all of your ingredients in a batch very consistent thicknesses, and then they kind of at least come close to drying at the same time. I ended up using just under 2 bunches of celery, and now this one's ready to go as well. We're gonna move on to the mushrooms. And we used about 1.5 pounds of those. And then for the last 2 trays, I'm gonna do a tray of kale. I'm just gonna cut stems off and just do leaves. And then about 4 onions on this last tray with some parsley. And then 5 or 6 big cloves of garlic. These are garden cloves, so they're quite a bit bigger than regular. Obviously, you can adjust to whatever suits your needs. So a couple things to keep in mind before we go into the deep freeze. This kale is going to pretty much freeze and deep freeze into not much at all. This isn't the most practical way to freeze dry this. You can actually mix the kale first, kind of make a paste out of it, and then pour it in. But we don't want to make it too much kale in the recipe, so I'm doing it this way. The other thing is that the onions, there's quite a few onions in here, so you're definitely going to want to clean out your machine after this load. And if you don't do that, it's definitely going to keep that onion smell and taste into your next couple batches probably. So that's all there is to it. These are ready for the deep freeze, and then I'm gonna get them good and frozen solid. I'll meet you down at the freeze dryer tomorrow, and we will get some freeze-dried veggie broth going. So we are good and frozen now. Please take a minute to subscribe if you haven't already. We do freeze drying. We do some simple living on this channel. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, take a minute to subscribe. It just takes a second. While you're there, click the bell to get notifications. That's gonna let you know the minute a new video comes out. I'm retired at 40, live life simple. Also, if you found the video helpful, give us a thumbs up. It really helps out with YouTube, helps our videos get out to the right type of people. And if you're curious about freeze drying, take a minute to sign up for our Facebook or our MeWe social media groups. And there you will find lots and lots of other freeze dryers. Pretty much get any question you can possibly imagine about freeze drying answered. And if you're thinking about purchasing a freeze dryer, consider using our affiliate link. We will put a link down in the description. That helps us develop new products and it helps us grow the freeze drying community. We put money back into our media groups. We put money back into product development. And if you've seen any freeze drying accessories that you like in this video, check out our store, freezedryingsupplies.com. And now we're going to let the freeze dryer do what the freeze dryer does, and that is to freeze dry. And the next time I see you, we'll have some freeze dried vegetable broth. Okay, so that took about 35 hours. Everything should be really nice and dry now, and I'm going to take all this stuff upstairs and we're going to run all of this through the food processor. We're going to make a fine powder and then I'm going to bag this up. So those 5 trays ended up being about 5 cups of powder, and we're going to put them through the food funnel. We're going to bag them up and then we're going to seal them in the Avid Armor. So I mentioned earlier that I would show you what we store ours in. We have quite a few different sizes of these types. They have a closable, airtight seal. It does allow air back in, but only as much as that's inside the container. We have a bunch of different sizes of these. This is another vegetable broth that I made a while ago that had some tomatoes in it. That was kind of something different as well, but let's take a look and see what our veggie broth today looks like. So you can see it's real light, really airy. This is going to make it rehydrate, reconstitute very, very well. So let's do that now. So let's take about a teaspoon. And then we'll just add some piping hot water to here. So this broth is really useful. We use it a lot for rehydrating. We use it a lot for cooking vegetables in it. And really what it's helpful for is just adding a blast of extra flavor to whatever you're cooking or rehydrating. And much like most of the freeze-dried stuff that we do, you can change the whole dynamic of this broth by how much water you add. You can obviously make it a lot more potent with less water. But let's see what this tastes like. Homemade veggie broth, and in this case freeze-dried homemade veggie broth, just has so much more flavor, and it's a lot more full flavored than anything you buy in the store. Another thing you can do to spice this up even more is you can add some seasonings, you could add some salt. All in all, the freeze-dried vegetable broth is a total win. This has been sitting on my counter for lots and lots of weeks. It doesn't start rehydrating. I live in a humid climate, so if it was going to rehydrate, it would have by now. You can see it's still very powder-like. But I'd love to hear in the comments section from you what your successes are, what you have added to this, or things that you wouldn't add to this. And in the meantime, this is Retired at 40. Remember to live life simple, and we'll catch you next week.